tonight, which was going to be last week, we were going to talk about knee pain and pretty much the VMO. So, where the VMO is, you got your kneecap. Okay, do you like the way I use my wrists for your lower limbs? You have the kneecap, and then you've got your quad muscle that comes and wraps around over the kneecap. There's your quad muscle, there's my hand again. And the VMO is over here on the inside of the kneecap. And it's technically classed as one of your quad muscles. So you can actually get knee pain with dysfunction of, or you can have tight hips, and they're going to actually pull and create dysfunction through your knee. You're going to get knee pain then. Ankle mobility is something that we've touched, or I've touched base on, I think a couple of weeks ago. Well, last week I was sick, the week before. I touched base with ankle mobility, and a couple of us actually said that they want me to talk about knee pain. Knee pain is really quite big because you've got to actually remember that it's the one joint that comes from your hips, which is the center of your body, and it is actually the big one for movement down to your ankles. The one thing in between that is your knee. So knee is going to cop the big brunt of it. Now, the VMO is weak. Like I said, it's on the inside of your knee, can be weak through what I was talking about with tight hips, with weak glutes, with ankle mobility. So these factors can actually switch off that VMO. VMO is actually the protector of the kneecap. So any weaknesses, and it can switch off pretty quickly. I've done a lot of rehab on people's VMOs and their knees. First and foremost, look at your hips and your ankle mobility and your glutes, and then we'll go into the VMO. But it actually protects the kneecap. So if that protector of the kneecap is not working, the VMO, if that is weak and it's not working, then it doesn't actually stabilize your kneecap. And remember, I said that it's actually part of the quad muscle. I'm using my hands as if you know what I'm doing. Kneecap, quad muscle, VMO sits here. So if it's switched off, then your quads are going to be working overtime as well. Then your hips are going to be tight. So, and then all of a sudden your kneecap's going to be moving and you're going to create pain. Now, the pain that you can experience with the VMO can be similar to, say, osteoarthritis or a meniscus problem. I'm not saying that if you've got that pain, it's not osteoarthritis or it's not meniscus, but it can be actually mistaken because of the trigger points that run up and down the actual VMO muscle. Now, although it's only a little muscle, well, there's little muscles, but although it's one of the littlest ones from the quads, it's got a really important role. So it will cause discomfort. It will cause like a burning sensation throughout your knee. And remembering that the quad comes over your kneecap. And a lot of people, when they come to see me, don't believe me when they say they've got sore knees. And a big question I ask them, do you play netball? Oh, netballer knees. Anywho, netballers get really bad knees, but from the stopping and starting. But I will always look at the quads because that quad will always play tug of war on your kneecap. All right, so I'm actually getting off track. The VMO, now I think it was Jasmina was talking about this 2 weeks ago. She wanted to actually find out ways to strengthen it. Before I would go into strengthening VMO or learning how to activate the VMO, which is probably what I would be more inclined to do, is, like I said, look at your hips. Do you have tight hips? Are your glutes weak? Do you have mobility in your ankles? Now, I've touched base with those 3 subjects in previous lives, so go back and have a look. If you have any questions, shoot me a message, put it in the group, whatever it is, I'm here and I will talk to you. And if you tick boxes, you would be looking at those factors first. Remembering, though, that with any of those dysfunctions, the VMO will switch off pretty quickly. And then your kneecap starts moving. And when you walk, remember, we touched base when we did the foot, hip, knee. One of the ones I've done, hip, knee, or hip, foot, lives, your knees must be straight. Now, I'm like a hairdresser that checks out bad haircuts when people start walking past me or their posture, because if I see your knees are turning in when you walk, I know automatically that your glutes are switching off. And I know automatically that you're going to get a sore back, your hips are going to become tight, your foot is going to start dragging, and you're going to throw your hip. Bottom line. All right, so these all need to be ticked. You can actually get a rolled up towel and sit down on the ground and extend your legs out. Put the rolled up towel underneath your kneecap. And then what you're going to do, now I'm going to use my arms again. So this is your kneecap and this is your towel. And now you're going to extend your leg here. Now, here, this little muscle here, we're going to call that your VMO. You're going to put your finger there and you're going to actually see if it activates. You'll actually feel it activate. You'll feel your quad activate first, and then as you hold that leg in extension for a little bit longer, what you'll do is you'll actually start feeling the VMO come on. And it's not like, oh, there it is, I know it. I want you to really just focus on what's actually activating and what's not. So then in that contraction, in that flexion, relax it, and then do it again. Make sure the towel is rolled up so that it actually has movement underneath. Your knee is actually higher than the ground. So that's one way that you can, and there are plenty more, but that's probably the simplest way that you can do it at home. You can, if it doesn't cause any pain in your leg, stand on one leg and keep your hips straight and just have a little soft bend in your knee and then stand up nice and straight. So that's a little flexion, a little extension. So that there is going to start waking up your VMO as well. Do this one in front of the mirror so that you know that your knee's not turning in. Remember, once we start trying to strengthen a weak muscle, it will become tight. So it'll start, you've got a weak muscle, let's say VMO is weak, you're going to start strengthening it, and then it's going to stay contracted because it hasn't probably been strengthened for a long time. So you must roll it as well. So knee pain can be complicated, but although I focus on fixing hips and backs in women, I have to actually piece the puzzle back together. So knees will always, back and hip pain, once we start fixing that and we start eliminating the pain in back and hips, pain will travel either north or south. So you either have to go and fix shoulders or either have to go and fix knees and ankles. So all these factors, one little dysfunction in your body can actually bring in all these dysfunctions. And it's not a matter of, look, you've got pain in your knee and your knee is bad. Like I mentioned, tight hips can pull on your knee. Ankle mobility can actually create pain coming up to your knee. So if you've got knee pain, go ahead and do that little example of a VMO activation that I mentioned. And why VMO is so important, remember I mentioned it actually holds your kneecap, stabilizes your kneecap, and it stops your kneecap from moving. So plenty of factors. I've given you an example of what to do. Give me a little shout out in the comments if you have any other questions about the VMO. Any other questions on maybe what you want me to talk about next week. I have plenty of subjects that I want to talk about, but I'd like stuff that relate to you and your pain. But remember, I fix back and hips, eliminate back and hips so that people have this function and can move freely again and do the things that they love. But pain does travel. It's the domino effect. And knees are super important for function as well. So remember, if you don't have range of motion, things are going to start getting stiff, pain's going to start happening, and then we've got to start piecing the puzzle back together. So, I can ramble for a long time about pain. If you've got any questions out there, shoot them in the comments. And don't be shy, ask any questions, and I'm here to answer it. Any other topics you want me to speak about, and I am here for you.